Salutations everybody, it is Maddie here today, and we're sitting down to talk about a company that many of you know are near and dear to my heart. That's right, BioWare, the kings of the Western RPGs back in the early 2000s with the likes of Mass Effect, Jade Empire, Dragon Age Origins, and of course my favorite of all time, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Now, while I still think that they've made some fun games to play, like Mass Effect Andromeda, they're a far cry away from where they once were as an RPG titan. They were the industry stopper. When their games came out, you sat down and you played them. But that's been different now with Andromeda, Anthem. The recent one that really popped off was Mass Effect Legendary Edition. But since then, we've all been wondering, where's Dragon Age 4? We all know Mass Effect, the next entry, is very far off. So what's going on with BioWare as a studio? And the goal of this video is to highlight what I call a dangerous predicament. I don't like to use those types of words in the titles of my videos because I feel like it's alarming. Oh dear, something's wrong. But in this case, I think there actually is. In fact, it's not just me saying it by piecing a lot of circumstantial evidence together. Former BioWare employees are speaking out. None other than Mark Dara, who's best known for his work on the Dragon Age franchise. He posted a video on his own YouTube channel ranting about Bioware Magic. This is a term that's been used to market out their studio to acquire brand new talent. This is also used by fans. There was a Bioware Magic as in the early 2000s when I thought their games kicked butt. They couldn't miss. And they used that term to then define development cycles in what is now referred to by Mark Dara as the hockey stick. It's better if he just says it instead of I, so take a listen.
What is Bioware Magic? Well, in short, Bioware Magic is this. What the hell is this? This is the hockey stick. And what's the hockey stick? Well, the hockey stick is something that happens in a lot of development where you are going along, not making a ton of visible progress. You're slowly getting things done, but if you draw that line out, your game is shipping in like 30 years. And then at some point, that is usually impossible to identify before the fact, you hit a pivot point and things start clicking together. The volume of content is enough. There are enough systems, things start clicking together, and the game development essentially pivots, and you start getting things done way faster. And this last little jog up, that's what people at the studio are talking about when they say Bioware Magic.
This is something that BioWare has leaned on for a number of years. All these pieces from the game just coming together at once, having a bunch of split up assets in separate places, and then all of a sudden, boom, it meshes together and they go, breathe. And what he argues in this video is that not every single studio does this, but there are many out there that do this, and he's more so ranting less to dogpile BioWare because he says only he has worked there, but more so to fight for processes to be better. What many call BioWare Magic, he calls bullshit. That is a process that just needs to be better, where you could raise that curve, where instead of it being like a hockey stick and curving up late, it's going up at least a little bit more at a better trajectory so you have an idea of what you're doing. This comes down to design and vision and conveying that properly to all the separate teams there. And there's no better example right now than a potential hockey stick in the making than Dragon Age 4. Here's a recent report on the status of development and release for this game that we really never talked about here on the channel. Dragon Age 4 won't release in 2022 according to multiple sources. Last night, leaker Tom Henderson claimed that a source with knowledge of EA's plans has said there's no chance that Dragon Age 4 will release in 2022. That suggestion was swiftly backed up by VentureBeat, which corroborated that statement, saying this isn't the result of some internal delay or anything. EA has long known that BioWare wasn't getting it ready for 2022. So at first, you read this news, and I imagine you share the emotions I do. You go, okay, well, that's not the worst thing in the world. But then when the report picks up, you'll see where the hockey stick can possibly be forming here. This is speculative. I don't want to assume bad studio culture. I don't think that's a good look. But based on what Mark is saying and this trajectory, you'll see what we're talking about. Let's read. That's in line with reports from last year that claimed that EA and BioWare were targeting a 2023 release date for Dragon Age 4. VentureBeat also states, however, that players shouldn't take that release window to mean early 2023, and that a summer release is the earliest possible time frame for the launch of Dragon Age 4, and even that is a vague hope more than a real target. While it looks like we'll be waiting at least 18 months for the long-awaited fantasy follow-up, we might get our first proper glimpse at the game significantly sooner than that. VentureBeat suggests that EA hasn't decided on when to begin marketing the project, but that it may show up during the summer season conference or at the Game Awards 2022, which will likely take place in December. See what we mean by the hockey stick? It seems like it's well and true here with Dragon Age 4. The last Dragon Age entry, Inquisition, was in 2014, right? Think of how long down the road the next entry is. That's not good, no matter what. And I know they moved on to Mass Effect, and then they moved on to a new IP, and they had to go back to Mass Effect for like a quick boost, and now they're getting back on track. The sequence of events makes sense, but there's a lot going on here that suggests this game is very far off. And again, it's that dangerous Bioware predicament, because what can this all result in if they're not getting, well, results? EA has had a history of closing down studios. They shut down Visceral Games, the home of Dead Space, only to give the Dead Space IP to Motive a couple of years later. Why get rid of Visceral Games then when you had the talent there that knew what to do with the franchise? And a lot of people believe, and I would honestly agree in some sense, that EA might be keeping BioWare around for optics, because they've gutted and killed off so many studios. BioWare is like if you do this, this is going to look really, really bad for EA. Not that they already don't have a bad public image, but this is going to be one of their worst looks yet. If they not only kill Visceral and Pandemic, but they also kill BioWare, one of the last standing RPG titans from the late 90s and early 2000s. It wouldn't be good. And honestly, we need to talk about EA in the same breath as BioWare, because I think EA, while at times unfairly gets scapegoated in a situation like Anthem, where they gave BioWare like 7 years to figure out what they were doing without much involvement, at times you wonder if they're the right parent for this child. What I mean by that is EA doesn't seem to know what they have. There's just no understanding there. There was no reason for BioWare, who was thriving in 2014, to go off and leave Shepard's story behind. There was no reason for them to go off and do a new IP and do looter shooter stuff. That seemed like a good plan for EA, but for BioWare, in this forced injection of multiplayer, even as someone who's a Mass Effect 3 multiplayer fan, it's just not worth it. What really supports EA not knowing what they have is when they wrote, Mass Effect Legendary Edition sold even better than EA expected. Quote, "There is an enduring power to the franchises and IP that we are building," Wilson said. The launch of Mass Effect Legendary Edition, the remaster of the first 3 Mass Effect games, reignited the passions of fans around the world, driving sales performance well above our expectations. Another supporting statement that EA never knows what they have is their reported unhappiness with the game license for Star Wars, which, by the way, for a company as greedy as EA, literally is a money printer. I don't care if you like or dislike Star Wars. That's not what the conversation is about. This is about money for these businesses, and they didn't even give a dang that they had Star Wars. That is free cash, and they had the studios, the pedigrees that would support titles that we all grew up with, like Battlefront with DICE. I remember, if you want to check it out, I have a Battlefront 3 wishlist series on this channel from the early days, and it was always, imagine if DICE made it. They had dreams coming true, EA, and they still didn't know what to do with it. So for them to be surprised that Mass Effect, one of the biggest sci-fi games, one of the biggest RPGs, thrived in a remaster environment, do they know that if they did the same with Dragon Age, that would also do well? I don't think it's as obvious for them as it is for us. And that's why I would be so stoked to see some type of separation between these two. But as you can see, this is a pretty dangerous situation, because now BioWare's back is against the wall. There's only so many times, no matter who you are, that you can mess up before it's like, all right, we got to do something about you. And I do think in a lot of ways that Dragon Age 4 does represent that moment, that turning point, that fork in the road of which path EA is going to go down with them. Do you let them have their studio autonomy and keep doing single-player focused RPGs like they're well known for? And they also stated in this write-up here, where Gary McKay at the end of 2021 posted a letter saying, "And of course, we remain hard at work on the next iterations of Dragon Age and Mass Effect. I'm seeing some incredible work from both teams. If you're curious about Mass Effect, I'd encourage you to take a look at the poster released on N7 Day. If you look closely, there are a handful of hidden treats. By my count, at least 5 surprises. All of which point to an amazing future in the Mass Effect universe. As for Dragon Age, we have a veteran group of talented developers working on the next iteration of the franchise. We are focused on a single-player experience that is built on choices that matter." So it looks like their focus is like, okay, we are going to focus on choices that truly matter. Single-player, choice, and consequence. Do you want to take that route with BioWare if you're EA? Or the other path, if this fails, if this flounders a little bit more than they expect, because now as Dragon Age is in development longer and longer, the pressure is to make this good. Let's say 2023 rolls around, late 2023, that's a huge gap because they effectively restarted development, right? Because it was originally a live service game, now it's single player, and they just keep being indecisive. I always say that management is BioWare's biggest enemy, and I don't know if this relationship with EA is working out. Well, I think we all do now, but you get my point. The reason this is a predicament is, as we all know, BioWare was a titan. Every release was a industry-stopping moment, as I said at the beginning of all this, and BioWare wants to go back to that. There is a self-awareness in this 2021 letter where Gary McKay writes, "When I took on the GM role, I talked about rebuilding our reputation, and that remains a huge priority. We are laser-focused on building back the trust of our fans and community, and we planned to do that by delivering the types of games that we are best known for and ensuring they are the highest quality. Our mission is to create worlds of adventure, conflict, and companionship that inspire you to become the hero of your story. We want the launch of our games to be seminal moments in the industry. We want each game to earn the kind of reaction that we've seen with Mass Effect Legendary Edition. We feel that we have the right people, the right creative focus, and the support from EA to deliver on the promise." So they saw what happened with Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and they were like, whoa, even BioWare is surprised at this point. So this is a studio that's kind of lost, and they're finding their footing again. And I do feel like, and I've said this before, I'm on record of saying it, that Mass Effect Legendary Edition is a sign of change, because BioWare just needed to be reminded, like, people still love you guys. I can say it here, like, even though this video is about controversy and not the hottest topic, I love BioWare, man. I want them to thrive. They have some of my favorite IP. But when you look at the company that owns them, that when they had the Star Wars license, didn't let BioWare do anything Star Wars related. The company that brought us KOTOR, which I know I'm biased here, but I think is the best Star Wars video game ever. I mean, they really matured what Star Wars was for a time period where gaming wasn't all that mature. They were so ahead of their time, and we didn't do anything with that. So I feel like it's a combination of EA not knowing what to do with BioWare, not knowing how good and popular their IP are, and then BioWare taking forever to make things. And I think that's really important that they do. But now, with this hockey stick mentality, we're seeing that pop up where the studio culture needs to be better, where I could totally see this being a situation where when it releases, it's like, hey, Dragon Age 4 is great, but yeah, here's some issues with the studio culture and development and crunch and all that stuff. It feels like rinse and repeat with this industry in a lot of ways. And with BioWare, it's unfortunate because you can see clearly what the path they need to take is. Like, let's get Dragon Age right. Let's get Mass Effect right. Earn that trust back. Either do another new entry of one of these series or actually try a new RPG franchise. It reminds me a little bit of the Bethesda Game Studios roadmap, where it's so clearly laid out, but there are so many things that can't happen because of that roadmap. Like, you can look and see Starfield and then Elder Scrolls 6, but where's Fallout fit into all of that? At the time of recording this, I don't know. That's the questions that need to be answered. And the same thing with BioWare. It's like, okay, we have Dragon Age 4 maybe 2023, because they're saying summer 2023, which could go all the way until technically September, is a vague target, is a hopeful one. So can it slip into 2024? That's super possible, I would imagine. So then where's the next Mass Effect game coming in? What, like 2028? That's just not realistic or sustainable. It wouldn't surprise me at all if at some point BioWare released the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer as a free-to-play component to kind of buoy the finances of their studio. That's also a hope of mine, because I do dig the hell out of that multiplayer. But I digress. This is a company that's in, unfortunately, a lot of trouble. And I hope that they can figure their way out of this, because it's going to take some real grit and willpower to get through it, because right now the road is so long for them. The road is, by the reports, by what's being said internally, by ex-BioWare employees, long. It's a long road to get there. But I hope they do get to the point of not just re-releasing an old game and going, yay, we love BioWare, but also making something new and being celebrated for that creation, just like the old stuff you can re-release. That's what they want. That's what they need. And so that's all I have to say in this video, ladies and gentlemen. Here's hoping BioWare gets back on track, but I wanted to highlight all of this for you in what is a, as always, fun discussion. I love talking about BioWare, even if it's really never positive news outside of Mass Effect Legendary Editions, let's be honest. So we'll keep covering Dragon Age 4, Mass Effect, seeing what's going on with them. I know a lot of people were requesting I made a full video breakdown on the image for Mass Effect, and as hyped as I am for that game, let's give it some time, until more pieces of the puzzle arrive and we can really start dissecting what's going on with Mass Effect. With that, ladies and gentlemen, fire away with your thoughts down below. Are you worried about BioWare like I am? Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.